Yeah, so this is a video recording that I started earlier of a project that I started, um, and I have developed further past this point. I figured I'll just post this up anyway, so you guys can see this point, and then I'm gonna post up what it's turned into and where I hope to bring it. So yeah. So the point of this animation was just to show our process and how I animate and how I problem solve through my animations. And then the next step from this video would show how I code my animations and prep myself into creating a finished animation. It can be tricky, but I tend to find it pretty fun and I enjoy doing it a lot. So if anyone else out there is enjoying seeing the animation process or wants to know how to animate or is interested to see how I animate and what kind of stuff I like to animate and the stuff that kind of interests me, stick around and you will see that my channel has a lot of variety when it comes to animations because my work is not just based on um, uh, 2D, I guess you could say. It's also got 3D impressions in there that I'm pretty fond with, playing around with those fundamentals. And also, it's not just based on sci-fi or action, but we're gonna see the breakdowns of slow scenes and stuff that I hope to implement into my novels also. Hopefully, with this scene that I'm showing now, because my character, what I'm animating her towards, is actually going to school, which I hope to do a breakdown of that scene later on in this video. But what I do hope to do is when she does finally, arrive at her destination, I might get to the point where she actually goes to the classroom. And once she does get to the classroom, I want to actually use that point um, to get across what my animations is about and what it will be about. Because we're going to be traveling to space and venturing a lot of planets that we're very familiarized with, and also a lot of stuff that we're not familiarized with. Stuff that we don't know, fictional stuff that I'll come up with, and um, I want to try and get across in my work what I think space travel will actually be like. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll see that I'm very fond with the idea of traveling to space and how I think traveling to space may or may not be. In other words, I've brought up my own theoretical theory, and I like to explore the regions of what ifs and how could this be, or if that's the case, then I like to problem solve. I like to find hiccups, whether they're hiccups or not, and I like to try and make a point out of those points in order to make something that's even more interesting for my work. And if I can do that and make it believable, then I've achieved, um, creativity. It's just the same as art. If I can make my world seem immersive and seem alive, then I've achieved being an artist, which is a subject for another time. A strong point I would really like to talk about and bring forward, because I listen to a lot of artists speaking, trying to inspire a lot of underling artists, and whether they know it or not, but their words can seem quite, I guess you could say, suppressive. It can undermine or make people feel like becoming an artist is quite what's the word? Quite a like it's really hard. Your path is gonna be quite, but but if it's something that you love and it's something that you want to do and it's more like a hobby than a job, then once you find your spare time and you're able to put your time into art, then be sure to do it. And you'll have ones like me that would most certainly be interested in seeing just how you go about tackling yourself when it comes to drawing things down or creating things in the 3D space. So yeah, I'm very open-minded, and I like to see people's progression. I like to see motivation, and most importantly, I love potential. My name is Patience Benjamins, and I look forward to seeing a lot of your work out there on my pages also. And I look forward to seeing your interest in my work also. But don't forget to drop likes, because on doing so, I can also get back in contact with you guys, and this relationship doesn't need to seem so ghosty. So I look forward to you guys. Keep safe out there, and keep waiting. I'll pump out more work for you guys soon. And as well, a lot of works that I do, not all of them will be finished on the time in which would be expected, and that's because I have quite a few projects I'm having to work on. Like this one, for instance. This is one scene. A lot of them are actually my own projects, but also people would like to have certain parts of my scribble downs, I'll call it, um, in order to continue working from that point, because my novels are it's pretty huge, and so trying to clock things in just one day is not that easy. So that's why you would see me working on a certain project, and I'll put it aside once I've got to a certain point, and whether someone else may work on it or not. But then I'll start working on something else, and then someone else, I'll start, and that's at the progression stage, unfortunately. And not all the videos are in my hands when I want them to be. So once I'm able to knock them out and put it out there for you guys to view, trust me, I will do so. But until then, just enjoy seeing the making and the creation of my videos, how I go about making and creating, and hopefully you like it, and if it inspires you, let me know. Thank you, and have a good day. So as I'm sticking around, for the guys that are sticking around for this video and that wants to see the progression of this same video and where I've gotten it so far, also for the guys working with, yeah, so this is my progression. At this point, what I'm doing is I've got the camera low down. This seems quite specific. The reason why I've got it down here is because I spent time working on those little bumps that you can see on the floor there, and that wasn't easy. So everything that you can see in this scene here, I've created myself, personally. If I'm not mistaken, this is just a draft video shot. So it may look a lot different when the finished product is ready to be published. A lot of my videos as well, I must forward, is not really promotional. It's not really what do you call it? Well, when I put it out there, it's not. I'm not advertising my animation work. It's just a way of showing that I'm ready and capable of animating. That's for starters. Also showing that I can animate, which is very important and crucial. And also, for any promotional use that I would be using it for, or am using it for, is only simply for advertising my novel work, not my animations. The animation is it's just me working on a lot of stuff that I hope to bring forward in the future, and a lot of that stuff that I do hope to bring in the future, forward in the future, can only be done based on the attention my novels get, because the novels are that where, for instance, I could sit down for 2 years trying to plot and plan my how to shoot a scene, yet alone how to bring that part of the story across. Um, and that would only be like what, about half an hour, maybe even longer. Okay, we could probably get about a good, I don't know, a couple episodes if working in a team. We could get a good few episodes knocked out within that time. But within that time, we're going to have to do a lot of scene planning, trying to develop a lot of scenes, and also, you know, storytelling and making sure that everything, storyboarding and everything, it can be quite strenuous, and it is a lot of work, and making sure that dialogue fits and is correct, and the characters are who they are. And based on that note, trying to explain a story that way, as to explaining a story via a novel, can be more troublesome, which is why I'm choosing the route of the novel. And the videos are just to show that yes, the novels do have um, a future ahead of them. AKA, I do hope to leave them off the page and send them onto TV screens in due time. At least that's the goal, and that's the expectation. Um, so yeah, I believe at this point I'm animating her. This is how I animate someone walking towards the screen. Why would I animate someone walking towards the screen in this fashion, starting with the stick poses? Is simply because I find it very tricky to draw it. I probably could do it, but the thing is if I draw a finished pose, a finished person, aka my character, in full-bodied form, and it's walking towards the screen, and somewhere along the line I find I've made a little mistake. Fixing that little mistake, working on the program that I'm actually working on, can be quite an errand to fix, because once you fix this point, you've got to go back and you fix that point, and then you got to go back and you got to fix that point. It's not everything's, it's not quite procedural. Like there are some programs out there where if you do make a mistake, if you correct it, it automatically corrects the previous, and stuff like that. And also, you've got smart vector lines. So if you color within your vector lines, and you change a color of a certain point in that vector line, you go back, it's changed in all the other folders of that. So unfortunately, the program or the platform that I'm working on is not that sophisticated, at least not yet. I do enjoy working on it. In fact, I love working on it. I do want to upgrade, but I'm not in a position to upgrade as of yet. But fortunately, I do love working on this platform anyway. So this is why I've chosen to go through the procedure of customizing and developing the character to walk towards the screen in this fashion, because I'm scared of making a crucial mistake that could ruin the whole scene and make me have to go back from scratch. Because one thing I really hate doing when animating, that is having to go back and redo what I've already done. Unless I'm having to go back and draw over it in a finished format, doing it in this state, no, I don't like doing it. It can be very off-putting, and I don't enjoy doing that. But so this is a fine way for me to work. I'll say my pace is relatively fine. I'm not racing ahead. There's no end goal. The only end goal I have is just making sure that the work is finished. So it's a comfortable environment to work in. I do, at this point, I'm probably focusing on trying to angle up this foot, to make it, slip into or slot in position a bit more fashionably, so it doesn't look, poppy It's got a kind of like but this is a draft. It's just a directory of how I hope to have the character walk in. The goal, which I wrote down on the side there, was to have her do the model walk, which is not an easy process, but I believe I was able to do so. And that's the swinging of the hips slightly and slightly stepping on those knees. Another challenge within this scene was making her actually look like a child from this perspective. Every now and then you'll see me flick back and flick the clip back, and every time I go back to the beginning of the clip, you'll see another character sitting on a chair in front of this stick figure, which is Jade. The character sitting in front of her is an anonymous, just a random person, a random character. But I use that character to help me decipher her true scale, her size, her weight, and everything. So once I did that, I was able to, put a right scale on her, which is also tricky when working in a 3D environment. What I found about working in a 3D environment is you have to make sure that everything is created to scale. Now, in this case, here we are. You can see the other character in front of her. I use this character to help me, work out her true size in this little scene, this clip. But I was going to say something. It was the 3D environment. What I tend to find is if you do not create things to scale, it can make things quite tricky. And in this scene, with this scene I'm working on this set, what I found out is I didn't create things to scale. So I made a little error, which I had to do quite a workaround. It was quite hard, but I achieved it in the end. It's not finished. It's something that I'm still gonna have to cover up. But once I do, I'll be able to move forward even faster. But at the pace I'm working at, I'm doing pretty fine, I will say. I know there's probably a lot of experienced 3D artists out there that are probably looking and probably saying, "Oh, I could have done this a bit better," or "This is very poly styled," which is actually kind of the point. The point was creating something that would still look very convincing in a cartoon world. I don't want you stepping into my world and feeling like, oh, it's part 3D and part 2D. The goal, and my goal has always been to use 3D elements at times within my work, but to make the 3D elements seem very cartoony, to where it could seem almost 100% convincing that it was drawn with someone's hand. Obviously, we know that it hasn't been drawn with a hand, and I can confess that working via perspective is not one of my strong points. It's not something that I can't do. It's something that I can do, but it will take me quite a bit of time, to get perspectives, art, completed. Like if I'm drawing a character from perspective, and I'm drawing a character walking, or I'm drawing a character spinning around or dancing or whatever, I can do that. But if I'm drawing a scene like houses, or like a road, or like anything like that, anything that's lifeless, I will have trouble drawing it in perspective. I don't know why, but when I look at it on paper and I look at it in real life, the readings seem different, and it's one of those things that once I actually, come to the understanding, a grasping of it, I'm able to grasp it, and I can say, okay, I think I understand the language of perspective in, the art world, and as to trying to bring that perspective, taking it from real world and putting it on a flat plane, and trying to make sense of that. That's the point where once I'm able to understand that, I believe I'll be able to move a bit quicker on perspectives. But when it comes to perspective, you'll find a huge dip in my workflow. I'll slow down quite a lot. Precision will not be all that great, but it will be believable. And that takes me on to my next point. I believe that's what art is. Everyone has their own belief in art. I believe that art, especially on a plain piece of paper, is all about deception. Which is funny because one of my main characters in my work is called Deception, based on this basis. Um, but I believe if you can lay down a flat piece of paper in front of you and you can draw a box and make that box seem convincing, when I mean convincing, someone could look at the piece of paper and say, "Oh, you drew a box," and the box is not just a flat box on the piece of paper, but you've drawn it maybe from an angle, so it's got depth. Then, as far as I'm concerned, you've achieved, you know, being an artist. You've simply become an artist because you've done something that's deceptively convinced someone that there's a box drawn on a flat surface, which we all know is impossible. Um, and it's just same as storytelling. If you can make someone feel, grow feelings or grow passionate for something that you've written down on a piece of paper, which is absolutely fictional, but they believe it so much as to, have eyes flowing with tears, or to even get angry because maybe a character in there, in your work may have died and they really like that character and they hope that character didn't die, or maybe how your character died, or maybe the character didn't fall in love with the person that they wanted them to fall in love with. Once there's an emotional connection, then as far as I'm concerned, your storyboarding has been accomplished, right? The same as when you're drawing down on a canvas. A canvas is just a flat surface, and if you can give that flat surface depth, and you can put feeling into that flat canvas, then you've got talent, and you've done something very great. Um, and it's not something anyone can just do. Um, so yeah, and that was the other point. Now, what I've done, what I've decided to do, which was something that I've always been quite interested in, ever since I found out about 3D, which was somewhere back in, I don't know, it could have been 2007, 2008, it could have been way later, like 2010. I always said to myself, I would like to implement some of my art into 3D spaces. And lo and behold, fortunately enough, I was able to find something that could help me do so, which is what we're seeing here. Now, the point of that is I'm taking that step of immersion to, in my current circumstances, to the next level. Because when you're working on a flat canvas, 2D, as you can see what I'm working on currently, it can be very, obviously you make it immersive, don't you? You start something from scratch, which I've done. I've created quite a few works thus far, um, and I've made it very immersive. Like this scene that we're looking at here, I didn't need to do it in 3D, but I did. Um, and then I've implemented my 2D character into it. And the reason why I've done this is because I'm challenging myself, and I'm saying, can I make my character slot into the world of 3D, or is my grasp on 3D technology, um, you know, soaring to such a point to where I can implement it into my 2D art rather than implementing my 2D art into the 3D world. Which, as you can see here, I can implement my 2D art into a 3D space, but I would have to say unfortunately, because working in a 3D space was something that I've actually changed my concepts onto wanting to do. But in this case, I've actually moved the 3D concept into my 2D platform. And I'm working in my 2D platform. As you can see, I'm drawing off of the 3D plane and going onto a normal canvas. and that's because the 3D situation is it's on my 2D surface, which means it's become flat. It's no different to a JPEG image or PNG. And so this is what I'm working on. And when I'm done, when I've finished drawing my character walk, and I've flatted her out and I've drawn her, I've finished her, and then the idea is to take a minute to sit down and look at it and say to myself, yeah, now this looks like a finished piece of work. As in it like a duo. They both slot together perfectly fine, and you wouldn't say, no, this stands out too much, or no, that stands out too much, or I can see the 2D from the 3D, or I can see the 3D from the 2D. And that's not what I want. The idea is to create 2D and 3D and make it look like one source. Do you know what I mean? And that's the goal. And I believe it's something that I can do, hence why I'm doing it. But and I've got quite a bit of time on this video because I will go on to talk. One thing that I think I have done in this scene, or in this clip here that you can see me working on at the moment, is, which I might implement it on the do-over, the cover coat, is the perspective on this shoe here. It needs to be slightly distorted. As you can see, there's no distortion at the moment, and I think that distortion would start around here, that heel. I believe you might see this if I move my mouse on the screen. This heel down here, it needs to be a lot smaller, as this bit comes a lot bigger, in order to give that distortion effect, that kind of, I call it that fisheye effect. Yeah, I think that's what that needs. It is something that I probably will do, not now, because we're running the video and I'm spending time talking to you guys. Yeah. So yeah, I think it needs that distortion. Another thing that I'm really satisfied with is over here, when she gets up off that chair, the way she bends into her back. Like, because she's, about 13? I ain't really just figured out her age yet, but I'm guessing she's about anywhere from 10 to 13 at this stage anyway, because it's a coming of age anime. But she bends into her back and she gets up, like, as you can see there. Then when she touches the chair to bend down to pick up whatever it is she's going to pick up, it's her posture as well. I had to catch that posture. It's something I'm going to try and bring out when I give it the finish over, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to catch it as great as I would like. It's tricky. And then I'm going to have come walking to the screen like this. So there's two things I want to try and work on. I want to try and keep that whole feminine touch to her. I began to exaggerate it a bit more when I saw exactly how the turnout began to look, because I was scribbling it all down at first because I just wanted to get that idea out of my head before I started switching over and thinking about something else. And so I was just scribbling it down, and as I scribbled down, I started seeing the line that made it look really feminine. So I can confess again that it was not 100% intentional. But it was something that I actually fell into, and I actually liked the lines, and I said, I'm going to keep that line. I'm going to get rid of the original line, the line that I had intended, because Jade, she is supposed to be a very, very feminine character. She's also an idiot, and she can't really fight, but she feels sometimes that she has to. Or in other words, she likes training, but she's an idiot, and trying to train for her is probably not the best idea, but it's something that I'm going to have her do anyway. And hopefully something may come of it. But yeah, so I'm going to try and focus on here. I've got a little bit of distortion in her little shoe, but not as much as I would like. I made a little bit of mistakes here, so you can see how I tried to work around my mistakes and how long I spend on mistakes trying to correct them and stuff. take note, this is my own project I'm actually working on. So yeah, somewhere here I'll make a little mistake. When she bent over by the chair, my idea was to have her grab that pole rather than put her hand on the headrest, but I just decided to leave her hand on the headrest, on the back part of the chair as she goes down and reaches for whatever she's going for. And when I realized that I had her doing the model walk, it was something that I remembered in the middle of making her, as she began to make that first step, the very first step. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm not sure if you've seen my previous video to this video, but it's when Jade is about to have a little spar off with Mel, and they're about to go into a little face-off scenario, and I've got Mel walking up to Jade, but she's doing like a little. I've got her doing the feminine walk, and I believe I achieved it, but not as good as I wish I could have. I won't go over it again because I've done flattened out the picture. And trying to go over it again would just take too much time, especially when working in the world of 2D. It doesn't take too long, but when you've got as much projects on the table as I have, and you've got to kind of fly through them, and everything's got to be done at a certain time within a certain time, even though I'm working towards my own time, it can be quite tricky. There is obviously a deadline, but there's no race between the time of now and the deadline. So just as long as you've got your own time schedules and you know that, yep, as long as I can finish this within this time, I can finish this within this time, I can finish this within this time, then everything's good. You don't want to fall behind on your work because that just ruins everything, and you don't like trying to, especially when working on 2D, you don't like working behind time and scribbling things down as far, that just ruins everything. As well, I've got a personal relationship with each and every single one of my characters. So when I draw my characters in a fashion that I'm not too satisfied with, especially when animating, that can be very offsetting and very off-putting. So it's always best to work not even 2 deadlines. It's best to work before a deadline, complete your work before a deadline, so that you've got all that time to go back and take your time fixing things that you probably wouldn't have had time to do so if you had worked slowly for you anyway. So I believe we will get the gist there. As we can see here, I've got a little bit of distortion going on that little foot there, which just a little bit. I caught onto it a bit late. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should put a little bit of distortion on her foot, because she's kind of close to the camera, and we know if you're in real life, if someone steps right by your face, you're gonna get a little distortion effect. If someone puts their hands right by your face, you're gonna get that slight distortion effect. Maybe not as crazy as we like to exaggerate it in animations or in animes, but yeah, it can happen, especially if you're looking through a lens like a camera. So I decided, as it's kind of like a camera, because no one's going to be down that low on a bus. I decided to put that lens effect, so to remind you, oh yeah, so we're looking for a camera. Also, she's carrying something in this scene, and because that thing that she's carrying is like it kind of longs itself in the scene, like it takes a while before it phases out of view. You could almost say it's like a peeking camera, and that kind of introduces it, makes you kind of feel like, yeah, she's holding it and she's walking. Maybe there's a camera in the bag, but it's not in the bag, it's down here on the floor. But so you just feel like your immersion in that scene is, you feel one with that scene. She's holding something, you're a part of something, and it's just the way how it is. We're in the scene together. Also, what I was saying near the beginning of the video is that these little bumps here on the floor was something that I also implemented into the scene, which was not that easy, but it was something I was able to do off memory. And that's the thing about 3D. It's something that I like playing with because after all those years of playing or studying how to, use a 3D platform and program, and now actually using it for my own project rather than someone else's, I'm very fond of that fact. And going over stuff that I've done in my, I would say, the primary course or the 3D course, and the more extreme side, intermediate side, bringing those things to light now, and refreshing my mind or having my mind divulge into the past, as it were, and implementing it into the present. I find it to be very fun. So here we're working on her foot. In a little while, it's going to be a little breakdown where I'm going to kind of step away from what we're looking at here, which is my 2D platform. And we're going to take a step into the 3D platform and take a look at the entirety of this scene that I'm working on, and how far I've gone with working not just on 2D but with 3D. So I'm pretty sure you can tell that I have a lot of fun doing all this stuff, as well as the amount of other stuff that I have coming with this animation. There's a lot of stuff that I want to put in there. Is singing, so you're gonna hear singing not just from other people but myself. So I'll try and put singing in there. There's also gonna be voice acting, which I get to have fun doing as well. There's going to be sounds, so I'm getting to play around with sounds as well, and environmental sounds and stuff that is quite new to me, which I love playing with. And it's something that, the reason why I love it is because I've always enjoyed, when I used to live in London, traveling to London, like the city of London, and or even if it was just to one of the towns, and just listening to everyday life, and even right down to the coughing of someone as they're on the train. You hear them cough, or you hear, like, people talking way back in the background, and even if I'm with, like, someone, for I don't know why, but I'll always phase out and have that moment to just listen to the environment around me, and that was just something that I really, really enjoyed. And because of that appreciation, I hope that it will show in my work. There's little bits and pieces of that implemented into my work already, but it's something that I've never really done before. Implementing sounds, because this is actually a big project that I'm actually I'm managing, as it were. So I'm like very hands on in this. So it's gonna be like lots of little clips that I hope to bring out. You're gonna see a lot of finished clips. You're gonna see a lot of part-made clips. You're gonna see a lot of clips that, because some of the clips that I'm involved in, I don't have my hands on. It's not. It's like I do my little bits and bobs, and then I pass it on. So I don't get to see the finished project until the project is finished. So I'm just like everyone else in that boat. But so yeah, so that's why we'll always have, like, some videos or pictures that are completed or not so completed, and some pictures that are completed and not so completed, because so yeah, so here we are. What I'm doing here, I believe I was just problem solving. Actually made a mistake at that point. And the mistake was, I accidentally started working on a layer that was before the layer I was supposed to be working on. But it seemed to work out best for me in the end anyway, because if I had kept the layer that was in front, or that was behind, or if I had kept the layer that you know, if I hadn't started drawing on the layer that I was supposed to draw on, and I had drawn on the layer after that one, then what would have happened was the frame would have looked too slow. Instead of playing too smooth, it would have played a bit too jittery. So I fortunately actually made the correct move. Um, Another thing that I've noticed about this scene that I actually don't like at the minute, even though I know it's a draft at the moment, is that the seats, if I'm not mistaken, there's supposed to be a bit more saturation in them. If I'm not mistaken, the blue is supposed to be a bit heavier, but even the lighting in this scene is way too bright, which is my first you know assumption, or somehow, some way, I've accidentally diluted the colours a little bit, flushed them out, and because everything's looking a bit too washed, and I don't like it. Another thing that I was unable to do was the little bumps on the floor, because the floor is quite reflective. But I tried to turn down the reflection, but it was a bit tricky. And the tricky thing was trying to bring the shadows back into the scene. Because I wanted these little bumps, because I'm down this slow, I really wanted them to, cast a little bit of shadows. It seems like they cast a little bit of shadows, but I wanted to see a little bit more shadows. I played around with the platform as much as I could, but I couldn't work around it. That was something that I just couldn't seem to get. There was probably ways, workarounds, but the thing is when you create workarounds, you got to start working around a whole lot of other stuff, and I just weren't in the mood for that. So there is another solution to this, which is why I didn't take it so seriously. And the solution is that I just simply draw in the shadows myself. It's cool because it's a static scene. The only person or the only thing moving in this scene is Jade, so it's not really too bad. But but it's something that I would have liked done manually, automatically, which is one of the benefits of working in 3D. Yeah. So yeah, I was also saying earlier about experienced artists, oh, when they're talking to inexperienced artists, or maybe artists that are quite new to the game and they want to kind of aspire and make something of themselves. Well, personally, I think it's quite hard on the new up and coming artists, because nowadays I will sit down and I would actually take time to listen to a lot of artists, um, whether it be at seminars, um, or rodeo shows, or whatever the means. Um, if and whenever I listen to the artist, it always sounds slightly grim, meaning um, they make the title of an artist or becoming an artist seem very. I believe the word would be strenuous. I can't believe the words didn't come back to me. But like very, like it's impossible. The task ahead of you is gonna be, I believe it's trifling. But when you really think about it, art is one of those things that people are always going to enjoy, whether you're bringing 2D or you're bringing in 3D, you know, because it's a venture into a mind. Someone could draw simply, water moving back and forth, and that looks amazing. You can say we're gonna see. What do you say? The eclipse. I mean, if the eclipse could raise money, say we're gonna have an eclipse tomorrow. You have a giant crowd out there waiting for the eclipse. But how many times have we seen an eclipse? You just gotta type it in the internet. The eclipse, and you can see what it would look like. I mean, for God's sakes, you can get a light bulb and put a tennis ball in front of the light bulb, and you've got yourself an eclipse. But when we see the magnificent event happen in real life, it's a sight that you can't miss it. But it happens. It's something that you always thought it's gonna happen. In the next 20 years, but seemingly it always happens. It just always happens. You know, or for God's sakes, it might even be shooting stars. I mean, I've seen a few shooting stars in my time, and if someone was to tell me, a pack of shooting stars are gonna go flying past the sky tonight by your window, my head's out that window. If someone says there's gonna be a pack of shooting stars shooting over the sky over in Australia, well, I'm not going to Australia. But the fact to the point is that there's always going to be someone that's interested. It's like there's I don't really usually like to say titles of cartoon names or whatever, but you might have a cartoon and it's drawn very realistic, and it's taken a lot of time to do it, and it's for kids, and they've taken their time, they've drawn something. It's taken, I'll say, probably taken years, about a year or 2 years, working in a firm team, and they committed themselves, and they said, let's get our heads down, let's be strong, and let's complete this thing. And we do, and it's awesome. And then you might have a few cartoons that you see on Disney Kids, or one of those channels that you have on Sky or cable or whatever they're called nowadays, Virgin Media, etc., etc., etc. And it's drawn stupid, and the point of it is because it's humorous, it's funny, but you will get a lot of experienced artists talking in a fashion where art seems to be very trifling. It's very daunting. It's like as if you're faced against a huge foe that's peeking from one side of his body to the other side, full of muscles, and you're just like this little skinny tard, in a unitard. But the fact of the matter is art's not that scary. Yes, it can be challenging, and yes, there are some very strong challenging points about it. But once you're able to, tackle yourself and you say, right, these are my strong points and these are my weak points, and just like anything else, a little bit of practice and you're on your way. You know, as well, you don't need to be the best, because someone out there is always going to be better than you. Just like in anything in life, you're always going to find someone that can do something better than you. You might be the fastest runner today, but tomorrow there's going to be someone faster. It doesn't mean you're slow, it just means you're not the fastest. So if you can pick up a pen or a pencil and you can weld that pen or pencil on a piece of paper in a way to make it immersive and deep, and have someone look at it for longer than a second, longer than 5 seconds, and then they actually come up with, they start, whether they compliment your work or they start implementing their own theories, or they start, growing their own interest and sharing with you based on a picture, yet alone a moving sequence. Then, as far as I'm concerned, you've completed that first task, that goal of becoming an artist. You're an artist. And that's one of the greatest things about being an artist, is that you can be self-employed just as much as you can work for anyone else. Yes, there are stuff to tackle, but a lot of great artists out there that are into sequences rather than just photos or pictures draw on a plain canvas. There's nothing in the background. But people, thousands, hundreds of thousands, would actually group up and watch that one little silly video. Not that it's, but they would sit down and they watch that video and they would say, "Oh, that's so great, that's so great," and blah, 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 blah. But there wasn't much to it. In fact, you might have someone else now that's put hours and days, maybe even years into their art, but their feedback may not be as strong. And it's not because they're not good, but that's just how it is sometimes. And vice versa. So, and just the same how it is in other things in life. You might face problems here, or it might be easy sailing. You're either lucky or you're unlucky. It's just how life works. So yes, when you're going into something like art, which is an unusual job, which is why most people first tackle it as a hobby before they start saying that it's something that they actually want to do as a career. I would say yes. In that case, if you're looking at it as like you've left school and you said I want to be an artist, and that's probably the best time to try and focus on trying to want to become an artist. But at the same time, it's probably not the best time, because there's a big possibility that you could miss out on a lot of experience that you could gather within that time of trying to become an artist. Whereas if you gather the experience elsewhere and then you're doing the artist as a hobby and doing little side jobs on the side, like a freelancer, as it were, developing your skills along the way, later on in life now, when you're more experienced and you're more confident in yourself and you know more about the ins and outs, you can now say to yourself, yeah, I want to be an artist. And you've got your little gathering and your little following, and you know where to go, and you're doing this and you're doing that, and yeah, why not be an artist? You know what I mean? So it's just the same as anything else, but the reason why it's an unusual job is because, like for instance, when you go to school, depending on the kind of stuff that kind of art that you're into, it looks like the video's come to a freeze. Just give us a little second here. I'm still working on it, but it looks like I'm not doing much. But okay, this is very important, because at this point I'm going to take us over to the other side, where we will see what I've been doing over in the 3D space. So this part is very important. If I can stop scribbling down on this board, I can actually take us there. Well, yeah, it's an unusual job, because when you're going to school and stuff, and they do art in school, whether or not they still do that, but your art teacher's not going to say to you, what kind of art are you into? What kind of art do you want to focus your skills onto? Whatever they teach you is what you learn, and that's just how it is. If you go in, and that's the chances are, if you go to, if you're trying to become a cartoonist, personally, if you ask me, and you want to do it professionally from leaving school, the best place to go, if you ask me, is America, because they're quite well known in that district, and you got all Disney and Pixar and all these guys, and a lot of their art looks kind of that's what they do. They've got a lot of institutes over there. But over here, for animation, yes, you will find it, but you will have to dig and dive a little bit, if you ask me. Otherwise, if it's like anime that you want to get into, the best place for you to go then would be Asia. Over here, because it's not so, if you ask me personally, it's not so well established. Because if you were to say to me, hey, do you know these guys, or do you know those guys, or do you know those guys, or do you know these guys, I'd be like, no, I don't actually. I'd actually have to go and do a lot of research. But I'm very familiarized, and with the well-known guys, and most of the well-known guys, their bases started up in foreign countries that are not It's actually a tram. This scene was actually inspired to me by uh, um, someone that I actually watched. Um, this person actually made a tram move across from one end of the screen to the other end, and he had his character in the scene, and he had a driver to the tram. So I want to put a driver to my tram and all. Um, and just like this individual who had created, um, well, his name was Olaf Storm. He created he created a 3D scene, and with his 3D scene, he implemented his 2D characters. And I was very fond of that scene. I complimented his work, and it inspired me, so I decided to do something similar. My goal was to try and create a tram that looked a bit more futuristic, not so modern. But I don't think I fully succeeded in that. This is an incomplete model anyway, but to be honest with you, I'm actually quite satisfied with the turnout. Um, I didn't really use a reference. It was just something that I decided to use myself. In fact, I actually made another train, and the train that I made, I've actually lost the content, but it was a train that looked very, very similar. I mean, like damn near 100% similar to the train that you can find in Star Citizen. Um, Hurston's train. No. Microtech's train. It was the exact same train. Everything was practically the same sleek design and everything. It's just their model looks a hell of a lot better than mine. Um, but it was the exact same, just full glass. Everything was just glass. How much better is this? You know, usually when you go to a school, and if you look at most schools today, when you really think about it, they either look like prisons or they look like hospitals. You know. But so I decided, let me try and make something that actually looks welcoming, that actually looks inviting, and looks like it wants to make something out of you. So I decided to put water. Water can be considered to be a virtue and a fine instrument of life. You know, it helps to, on flow, and it's never ending, as it were. You know, so and that can be considered as very welcoming to the subconscious state of the brain. Um, the school design, as you can see, it kind of bulges out. It's not just that flat, solid, bold look. I want to try and give it a lot of colors, a splash of colors to make it pop. I went for the red foot ground, the ground to be red. You know, like the sports ground. I can't remember what they call it now, but I went for that just because kids they like to run around and stuff. So when they see something like that, your brain's immediately brought into energized mode rather than the typical cement. I bought a colorful, entrance, so you feel welcome. Those flower bed thingies, I want to put flowers in there. I created these bushes. I'm not really too finished with them yet. Put benches, put bins. I want to put a shop nearby so that the school kids can come out and go to a shop on the school grounds to buy food or whatever, etc., etc., etc. So that's the bus there that she's gonna come walking off, and I want her to come walking up this path here, and she's gonna come meet a gallop of her friends, and they're probably gonna turn into the school, or maybe they'll go to the shop. I ain't really thought about that part yet. So I hope you enjoyed my animations, guys, and yeah, hopefully you look forward to seeing more from me. This project is my own, so I do hope to finish this one. And please don't be deterred if you don't get as much action scenes as most people would obviously love. So, yeah, thank you for sticking around and goodbye.